This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
So glad you're with us today.
Yeah.
Josh, I just got a call from Nana.
Yeah?
Yep. She's getting both of her vaccination shots are scheduled.
Oh, cool.
So she gets her first shot, I think next week.
Oh, cool.
Then she gets her
Good.
second shot the 18th of February. And then they're going to move up here.
Oh, cool.
And that probably means that we, not necessarily you, but you are big and strong. So maybe you. But we would go, load a U-Haul and everything and help them get up here.
Okay.
So it's just like, that's a warning, but you don't have to.
Right.
It's not mandatory. But anyway, she's been waiting. People have all different ideas about the vaccine. For Nana, who's 80 years old, who has liver issues and kidney issues and severe asthma, she does not want to be around anybody until she's got both the vaccinations.
Right.
I guess in her mind, she's like, what's it going to do? Kill me? like you're joking. You're surprised by that. But think about who's saying it.
Yeah.
And right, Nana, she's like, I'm 80 and I already have all these other problems. I'm going to worry about what a vaccine side effects are going to be. Okay. So anyway, so it was important for her to get this. But I just want to tell you that I just talked to her and they're going to be moving up here soon.
Okay.
All right. So last week we talked about that the way that you interpret the word okay in conversation. And how to most people, I think, if you say okay and somebody else says okay, that means that it's understood and that's the plan. Or
there's an agreement.
An agreement, yes.
Yeah.
For you were saying that no, it means I heard you.
Yeah, it's an acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement. So I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you, but I'm laughing because you have your own way of your own language, and what makes me laugh is for you, you're just like, yeah, you can all do it my way.
I don't intend it like that.
No, I know, but it makes me laugh because that's basically what it is. You know what I mean? It's like you're not being mean about anything, but that's what that means to you. And so that's how you act on it.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we had a conversation yesterday that so you were at your place and I had asked you to come over and Dad was putting in a garbage disposal.
Yes.
So he couldn't help me out there. I was asking you to come help me just bag up some leaves.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm doing laundry. And do I want you to stop the machine? And I thought, no, because that would interrupt your pattern.
Right.
Because you figured out, we talked about this a little bit last week, about the wash machine and the dryer, about you setting a timer for you to remember or you to be aware of now it's time to go check on them. What'd you find out? How'd that work?
It works out a lot better.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, having a timer that actually will go off whenever the timer goes off, makes it a lot easier for me to remember that, hey, I have laundry going.
Oh, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially because the washer and dryer themselves do not have ringers or whatever.
They don't have a timer that goes off.
They have timers, but they don't go off whenever they finish. There's no sounded timer.
I thought something was funny and this is a side note too, because this is not what I want to talk about today. But this is a side note because that was the first thing that you undertook on living on your own that you were going to be consistent on, which was laundry. Mm-hmm. And so last week we talked about you setting an alarm on your phone, and you gave me, I think it was, I don't remember, yesterday, a couple days ago, you gave me the exact minutes of the washer and dryer that reminded me of you knowing the exact, down to the exact second of cooking something in the microwave.
Yes. 103 minutes for the washer on a regular load, and 47 for the dryer. No, I got those two mixed up.
Okay.
It's 47 for the washer, and even though it says it's 60 minutes, it's an hour 3 minutes.
Okay.
For the dryer. Mm-hmm. And yes, I do know how to cook most things in the microwave to the exact second.
Yeah, you do. You do. So, does it bother you that on the machine it says a set amount, but it doesn't take that set amount?
See, because you're turning it's not an exact thing. Like it could be slightly off from the 60, and that could add like a minute or two. Mm-hmm. So when I say an hour 3 minutes, sometimes it can be exactly an hour 3 minutes. Sometimes it can be a minute or two longer.
But that doesn't bother you because it's something that you're turning and setting yourself?
Let me be clear about this. If I had been younger and not as introspective, I guess, as I am, I would have had trouble with it.
Okay.
One of the, I guess, benefits of being 32, not 33.
I remember now. I remember.
Is that I can have a more mature outlook on things. Mm-hmm. Doesn't necessarily mean I am mature.
No, but I think that what you do much better than you did at earlier stages in life is to understand that you're able to overcome the things that bother you, whereas earlier they would stop you in your tracks.
Yes.
And
because I wouldn't be able to move forward from it, because it would just be a stopping point and I'd get stuck.
Mm-hmm. So
it had to be a learning experience for me growing up to learn that, like, let's use the example that started from the washing machine versus the timer I set.
Right.
I had to learn that it's not an exact science per se. It is it's an average, almost. It's a, what's the word? It's a, average.
Are you talking about the washer and dryer?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about learning that with the washer and dryer, it has to be an average time.
Oh.
Not necessarily an exact time. And that I had to learn that with I'm using this as an example, not necessarily as the end all be all.
Okay.
But just as in the example that we were using.
Okay.
That I had to learn that if it went off, if the timer would go off before it was ready. Same thing with cooking in a microwave. You just add a little bit more time to the timer.
Right. Oh, so you're saying... Oh, I get it what you're saying. Okay. Because I was having a hard time following. Because like you're saying that you had to learn, and I'm thinking, well, you've only been there for a week and a half. I mean, I was confused by this. So what you're saying is, you're talking about adapting to things not being exactly the way that they're said.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like whenever you go to a grocery store and you pick up frozen food, and there's a time on the back of it set for a certain temperature.
Right, because you like the steamables.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. You buy those bags of vegetables in the frozen section that are steamables. You just put them in the microwave.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go.
Even those steamables have 3 different times for them written down on them.
Probably based on the
wattage.
Wattage, yeah.
Yes.
Of the microwave.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And even then, I don't know what kind of wattage it is, so I have to guess.
Okay.
So I do it for the shortest amount of time, and if that doesn't work, I do it for a little bit more, and so on and so forth. That was a learning experience. To learn that, like I said, it's not necessarily as it says because of variances, because of different variables.
Right. Well, that was a huge deal for you.
Yeah.
And when it comes to talking about the washing machine and the dryer, I have never set a timer against them.
Yeah.
No matter
right.
to this point, to this date, I have never done that.
Right.
I set a
because they usually have a like great end or whatever.
Well, ours sings, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and so on.
Right. But I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
I've never once until this conversation thought, if the wash machine says, like, let's just say I do a quick wash, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I never paid attention. Is it 25 minutes or not?
It's not.
But I didn't know that until it never occurred to me.
Yeah.
I guess it's just not something that I was
right.
ever paying attention to.
Let me clarify something. With your washer, if you put it on for minutes, it's in there for those minutes. Mm-hmm. If you do it quick dry, it's a quick dry. It doesn't necessarily have to wait 25 minutes. It goes until it's dry. As for a quick dry.
There's only if you use the sensor.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to the washing machine and the dryer that you're using now. Mm-hmm. Does it bother you that it's not the time that it says?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Mm-hmm. With that said, with the washer and dryer that you have and that I used to use, which, granted, it's also newer than the ones I'm currently using, the washer and the dryer do not last the same length of time. And that kind of taught me to expect that there would be different times between the washer and the dryer.
Okay.
Which, in turn, being taught like that led to me not necessarily being as upset as I could be.
Right. You went through great lengths and an awful lot of real-time support and therapy to get to a point where you can get yourself out of a situation that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so what it sounds like you're describing is the same thing as you needing things to be just right. Like that glass, when it's set down on the wrong side of your plate, you pick it up, even today, you pick it up and move it before you're going to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, is there anything that you're aware of that helped you to overcome? Because there was a time that if something wasn't exactly the way that it was supposed to be, you would screech. And by I mean that, like, you didn't scream in anger at anybody.
Right. It was just frustration.
It was an overwhelming, and you would put your arms up.
Yeah.
and sometimes like over your head,
Yeah.
over your ears, like your arms up above your head, but your elbows bent behind your. And then your hands are behind your head.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm making that. Okay.
It's like whenever a person is crouched down and they're cowering or whatever.
Yes.
That kind of thing, but I'm still standing up.
Yes. That's something that you would do often when things were not exactly the way that I was going to say that you thought they should be. That there's part of that, there's truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm speaking right now of like the washer and dryer, how there's a time.
Yeah.
And when
it
that's,
doesn't match up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it still bothers you, but you get through that. But other than just growing up and I mean, all the therapies,
Yeah.
is there anything that helps you with that? Because, I mean, somebody listening might have, a much younger
Right.
person on the spectrum that could... Anything? You have any advice for that?
One thing that comes to mind in regards to the washer and dryer not being on the same time frame as an actual timer is for the younger kids who have autism and their parents at least, almost make a game out of it. Is the thought that's coming to my head, is that point out to your kids, hey, we're going to see if the timer matches up with the timer on the washer and dryer. And if they don't, we'll see what we can do about making it more accurate. And I don't know, I'm not explaining it very well.
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is that when you were younger, explanations didn't get us very far.
Right.
And once you were elevated, you were already elevated. So it was just a matter of providing a space for you to de-escalate.
Right. I think that... Well, how old would you say I was whenever I started doing laundry?
Well, I don't know. You were a little guy when I was having you help sort them, because at that time we were talking about colors.
Right.
Even you were that young. We're talking about this. Put this color here. Put this color here. And then when you were big enough to carry the basket, I would have you, carry it into the room and dump it out. Yeah. Like little steps like that to help you to...
Right, but how old would you say I was whenever I first started actually interacting with the washer and dryer?
Oh. I don't...
Middle school? Early middle school?
No,
late elementary?
No, not even that early, because the sound hurt your ears.
Oh, okay.
You didn't like, because our laundry room was a washer and dryer in a small room, all to itself.
Yeah.
And
the reverberations would hurt my ears.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were out there, let's say, and I turned the knobs, that would get your attention, but it would just be, it was really loud. Yeah. And the washing machines that they make now, so ours that we have now, much quieter.
Yes.
Than the one that you have at the apartment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that sound would hurt your ears, and then when I would start it, the startup noise bothered you too. Yeah. And so it's not. So the help would be, like before and after. Okay. Like I would get you. Sometimes you'd help me put the soap in. I would ask you to clean the vent. Yeah. And then put the dryer sheet in. But there was a point in time where you didn't like getting your hands dirty, so you wouldn't do the vent either. Yeah. So. Yeah. My point that I'm making is, this whole washer and dryer thing has my attention. Maybe like you're like thinking, okay, weirdo, but I'm so intrigued by this because. the washer and dryer has been something that has been an issue with you for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Things being precise have been even a bigger issue. If you say that something's going to happen at a certain time, it's going to happen at a certain time. If you expect it to happen at a certain time.
Lunch being a perfect example.
It has to be, right.
Yeah.
And it's also different, right. If other people say something, you're going to hold them to that. Because that's the time they said.
Right.
Yeah. But it was just interesting that you've timed the washer and the dryer and they're not precise. And
right.
So what you're saying is you just deal with it. Does it ever stick with you? Like, it bothers you? How long does it bother you? And how do you get past that at this point in your life?
With the timer, it actually makes it a lot easier to deal with because then because it's a countdown timer, and so it'll start beeping at me whenever that timer runs out. On my phone.
Okay.
And so one of the things I like about that is that even if the washer or dryer goes off before that time, this is a reminder saying, hey, I need to go take care of it.
That makes sense to me. Would it upset you if the phone went off, you set the timer, it went off, you went to check the washer or the dryer, and it was still going? I think, knowing you, I think that would bother you some.
The first time, it's kind of like with the microwave thing with cooking, where you do it for the lowest amount of time, and then if it's not enough, you do it for a little bit longer. The same thing happened the first time that I did the timer. So what I do, I quieted the timer, but kept count of it, so that I could find out.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I could find out what the actual time would be. And then it didn't happen after that. I didn't have that issue afterwards.
Okay. So you removed the responsibility from the washer and dryer, and now it's on your phone. And it's a reminder, and you don't have to worry about when it's actually going off.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And one other thing that I also have to keep in mind is, in the dryer, just because it finishes doesn't necessarily mean that it's dry.
Yeah.
So I have to double check that before I take them out.
And you have a hard time distinguishing whether something is damp or hot.
Yes. Yes, I do. It's like if the dryer just finishes up, and I put my hand in there to feel the middle of the clothes, sometimes sometimes the what was it called? What is it called whenever it's damp in the air?
There's humidity.
Yeah, that's it. Whenever the humidity inside the dryer will sometimes fool what I'm feeling.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So
it does.
So sometimes it can be either hot and still wet. Not wet because it just went through a drying cycle, but it could still be damp. And so one of the things I've learned is that with pants, if you feel around where the buttons are on the front, sometimes the pockets, that general area, you'll feel if it's damp or not, because it'll feel different than the rest. The only problem is that sometimes the pants on the outside and the inside of the rest of the clothes or whatever is in the middle. So it's like, it's not a foolproof thing.
Right.
But generally speaking, the pants will let you know if they're dry.
Okay.
But then again, there's things where it's like towels. There aren't any pants in those.
Right.
So you can't necessarily tell right away.
Meaning if you do a load of towels, there's no pants in there for you to feel to make that judgment.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So sometimes I take them out and then I find out, hey, they're still a little bit damp. So I have to put them back in the dryer.
Right.
Which is frustrating, but...
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're getting there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay. So back to the original topic.
Yes.
I had called you and asked you if you would come over.
Mm-hmm. You texted me.
I text you. And you said that you were doing laundry.
Uh-huh.
Did I want you to
pause the washer? Yeah.
Yes. Of course, my thought is no. That you're in a process of keeping yourself on track.
Yeah.
I don't want to disrupt that.
Right.
So I said no. Just finish that, and then.
No, you said no. I said okay. I'll be over soon, and you said come over when your laundry is done.
Yes. Right. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so that was a conversation that seemed pretty clear to me, but it wasn't.
Yes.
And the reason it wasn't is you had some clothes in the wash, and I thought, oh, well, I was telling you, I did not want to interrupt that, so just come over when you're done. Mm-hmm. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then hours have gone by.
Yes.
And you're not here, and I called you up. Mm-hmm. And what I didn't know that you didn't tell me was that it was laundry day, and you were going to do all of your laundry, which means you're going to do more than one load of laundry.
Right.
I didn't know that you were going to do one load of laundry because it didn't, I guess maybe it didn't occur to me, but it didn't occur to you to say to me, it's laundry day.
Right. In my mind, it doesn't even occur to me that you might not be talking about doing laundry all day. Not all day, but just doing all of my laundry. Mm-hmm. Because there's not even a because. I didn't think about that. You said, go ahead and do your laundry. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to do my laundry.
Right.
And so it doesn't even occur to me that you're just talking about that particular load.
Right. Which I was. Because you had a load of laundry in the washing machine.
Right.
Yeah, don't pause that. Because that's taking you away from a pattern that you're establishing.
Right.
And I don't want to interrupt that.
Right.
So let it finish in the washing machine, put it in the dryer, and come on over so you can help me bag the leaves. Well, what happened is, it's getting dark outside. You're not here. Excuse me. So then I called you. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, it's getting dark. Yeah. And what happened? And you said, well, I'm doing my laundry.
Yeah.
And that to me, I mean, I guess you could look at it at both sides.
Yeah.
I made an assumption that you were just talking about a load of laundry.
Uh-huh. And I made the assumption that you understood that with me doing laundry, it's a continuous thing. Right.
But this happens, what made me think about, what I wanted to talk about today, in regards to that, is that that is kind of like a pattern of things that I shouldn't say pattern, it's a way of communicating that you utilize that leaves out information that you assume that other people would know. And again, like I said in this one, I guess you could say like it could go both ways. Because, right. But with me, and knowing you, and raising you, I should have known to take that a step further and to ask you, how much do you have to do?
Yeah. The thing that comes to mind is whenever like younger kids are asking an adult or talking to an adult about something, and they assume that the adult knows what they're talking about because the adult is older and wiser. So it's like,
well,
the kids don't think of them like that. But I mean,
right?
That it's the assumption that kids have that, hey, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think specifically with you, what I'm talking about is this is an example of things on your side of that conversation. That there are often times where a little piece of information is not put into the conversation, and
it would change the entire...
Right.
Yeah.
And we all do that. Because think about it. I could have just said, oh, how much you have to do. But, so we all do that. But I just thought it was a good point to make that that's just an example. But it's kind of consistent across the board with you where you don't share information with people because you don't think to share the information to people.
Right, and like it's not a malicious thing or anything like that. It just doesn't occur.
It just doesn't occur to you whatsoever to give this piece of information along with whatever else you were saying. Right. And
then at other times, I give too much information.
Well, and sometimes you yes, and you make jokes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes, you make jokes when it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've gotten better at all things. I think.
Well, thank you.
So there are a number of things that when I'm having a conversation with you, you don't, unless it's spelled out, you don't think about excess information. You don't think to say out loud the parts that could make a difference.
Because in my mind it's already been taken into account or something like that. Like it's not necessarily that. No.
No what?
No what?
Oh, I didn't say no. I just had an idea.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that I was thinking that what it seems like to me is that you have in your mind, the way that you're experiencing something, the way that something is, or the thing that you're doing, that you're immersed in. And you don't always think to put those things in words. Like they don't, because they're in your mind, they're already a given.
Right.
And you don't think about what another person needs to know.
Right.
Is that correct?
I mean, sort of.
Describe it to me.
I mean, I have an example that might explain it a little bit better.
Okay.
So, you know how whenever a car will crash, how it will leave marks on the road and little bits and pieces here and there of the car? Whenever you see those, you know there's been an accident. Do you think about how the accident looked like?
Me personally?
Yes.
What the accident looked like?
Yes, like what car went where and this, that, and the other.
I don't. Unless I see like the the marks that go, I've seen one time I saw them go down the road and over to the side through a guardrail. Well, there was nothing like that. I was like, oh no, that's and then I just do a thing like, oh, I hope they're okay. And like a little prayer, watch
so
over them.
you just know that there was an accident and that someone went in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With me, I can tell you exactly where they started to swerve. I can tell you exactly where a little piece of the car went off of the car and ended up where it is now. And different,
Okay. So are you saying that sometimes conversation is that kind of minutia that you don't think needs to get shared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like going back to that example. If you watch CSI, like even just one of the first season episodes,
okay,
you'll see a flashback where it actually happens.
Right.
I see that in my head.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I just do.
Okay. Well, because you see, when we've talked about this before, is that you can tell me now, you can... had this conversation with Dad the other day. We're going down the road, and he goes, after the bend, after the curve in the road and over the bridge, and I said, what curve? what bridge? And it's interesting because you, and to Dad to a greater extent, and not me, you can see all the details along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting from the house now to the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
You probably see all kinds of things every time that I don't ever even observe.
Yeah.
Not even in, passing. It just doesn't...
Right. And yet I can't remember a street name.
Right.
I find that funny. But, not funny, but you know what I mean.
Right. Well, it's pretty incredible, though, that I've noticed about you remembering names is that you remember people's names now.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how long it took for us to do that? And I just want to share with anybody that's listening, what we did was a good way. This is what the approach that I took, and I think that it helped. Is that Josh couldn't remember anybody's names, and I'm really bad at names, and I'm not shy of saying that. When I meet somebody and they tell me their name, I'll just say, I'm bad at names. Can you tell me your name again? And then next time I see them, I don't remember your name. I remember faces all the time, but I don't remember names. But it's just was different for you because it just never occurred to you to think about remembering their names, to get their names.
Sometimes,
we'll take it a step back from that even.
Yeah.
It never even occurred to you to learn their names to begin with.
Right.
So what we did is we started talking about music. We started talking about the names of songs.
Yes.
We started talking about names of bands.
Yes, and every time that they would come up on the radio, hey, what song is this and who plays it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, who sings this?
Yeah.
Yep. What's the name of the song?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was my way of helping you to connect that what you're experiencing, the person that's singing has a name.
Yes.
And the song that they're singing has a name, and that's how you effectively communicate with other people about what you're experiencing.
Yes.
So I think that helped you a lot.
Yeah.
And we still do that.
Yeah.
We still do that. So anyway, you've come a long way when it comes to knowing, retaining names of people.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember coming home from one of the first times I played D&D away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you asking me, "Hey, so how'd it go?" I remember saying something along the lines of, "Oh, it was awesome. David did this thing, and his character did this thing, and it was just really cool." And you gave me a funny look. And I remember asking, "What?" And you said, "You remembered the names." Mm-hmm. I'm like, "Well, yeah."
Right. Yeah. And that is kind of what's happening with this move, mm-hmm. you living away. It's just interesting because, of course, I'm having that mom thing, where I'm like, I hope he's okay. I hope he's just,
Yeah.
And this is something that, this is the right time and this is the right place for you to see what you can accomplish over there.
Yeah.
And it might not be a lot to other people, but you doing your laundry is huge.
Yeah.
And you working through the
minutia.
The difficulty of that timer issue.
Yes.
That's huge. You figured out a way to get through that, and now you're doing your laundry like you need to do.
Right. So instead of minutia, it's just minutes.
Right. Yeah. But going back again to the conversation, because I probably should have prepared a little bit better and have more written down. But since we've lived apart, there's been a number of times where you will share just the sort of like kind of like, we'll say it like in this way, like the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. Like that's the information that you share. Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole bunch of information like below surface that I'm not getting from you.
Right.
And I'm noticing that more because I'm not living right there with you.
Right.
Because living with you, you're right there with me. I can go, hey, what about this? And then if something doesn't fit right, just right, I can go, wait a second. What about this? What about that?
Right.
Whereas the dynamics have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm relying on not seeing you physically all the time, but talking to you all the time.
Right.
So that information, I just thought that it was interesting, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it today, is that there's bits of information when you communicate with me, and I'm assuming other people as well, that it just doesn't occur to you to share.
Right.
And sometimes it makes a big difference. It can mean, so for... I should have written down these examples because I can't think of any now. But it makes a big difference when it's something important like medication needing to be refilled.
Right. Or school stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what you're working on over there, what's working and what isn't working.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding is that even, what I am finding is that now I'm asking you the questions. How are things going with this, or how are things going with that? And there are things that I know that just don't occur to you. And because they don't occur to you and they occur to me, doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. It just means that, it doesn't mean that. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But in conversation, there's oftentimes pertinent information doesn't occur to you to share. Is that just the way it is? Because I guess what I'm concerned about is that when you communicate with other people, a whole picture sometimes is needing to be shared, not just pieces of that, like that, not just that tip of the iceberg. You got to let people know the big picture.
Right.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. I realize that as I'm talking about that, you kind of checked out a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. All right.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just think it was something that I noticed, and I will keep track of that when we're talking, or
Okay.
maybe come up with a way for you to fully include information that everybody's going to need. I guess what I'm saying is that as we're trying like this separation here, I'm realizing often since we've not lived together, there's been bits and pieces that I don't get, and I have to go back to you and go, hey, what about this? And then find out that we're talking about different scenarios.
Right.
So I will do a better job of asking specifics, but I also want to help you to be able to include information, because other people, as you move forward in life, are not always going to be able to ask you the specific questions that you need.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about today. That what has come up for me is that awareness that you are not, if you're, unless you're asked we've always known this, but if you I have to ask you the exact right question.
Yeah.
And you're very comfortable giving me answers when I ask you the right question.
Yeah.
You answer the question that I ask. You don't elaborate. you don't include anything else. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that part of that nuance of communication,
Yeah.
I'm recognizing that's the way it is with whenever I'm having conversations with you. And I think that it happens enough in talking to you that I'm not really sure how, but that's something that I think helping you to be aware of that when you're dealing with other people will be helpful.
Okay.
Jets?
Yeah, jets.
Yeah. Well.
So, one of the things you just reminded me of was from iRobot.
Okay.
Where the main character that was played by Will Smith in the movie asks this hologram of the deceased doctor different questions, and some of them he could. The response was, "I'm sorry, I don't have that answer in my memory banks." And then whenever he finally asked the question that he needed to know the answer to, he's like, "That is the correct question."
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. That is completely accurate. It is. I feel like it would be helpful for you to be able to, and maybe not, maybe it doesn't matter. What I'm just noticing, though, is it's still the same thing. You have to ask the right question.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just an observation that I had, and I thought, because I'm your mom, and I worry, like, oh, what about when you're dealing with other people? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be helpful for you to be able to include information that's pertinent? How do we get you to see, like, that bigger picture?
Right.
If that happens.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, that's it.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of checking out.
Yep, it's time. I know.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm glad that you're here. Yeah. And, everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate you. And give us a 5-star review if you would, because Josh explains that it bumps us up.
Yeah.
Bumps us up.
It helps us be seen by more people easier. And
that would be awesome. And check us out, please, at sonyaking.com, SONYAKING. And send us any emails that you'd like, any topics you'd like us to cover. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And Josh, I am really proud of you for what you're doing.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. All right, hey everybody. I hope that you have a great day. I hope that you stay safe. Take care of yourself. There's a lot going on in the country. Tomorrow is inauguration.
Really?
Yep. Well, by the time they hear this, it would have been the day before.
Oh, okay.
But yes, for us it is.
Okay.
But anyway, everybody stay safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people you love.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you next time. Love ya.
Bye.